What's up, guys? We're back with episode number 22. That's 22 of the Armstrong Avenue podcast. I'm Big Mike, the host. I'm sitting here with Scott Armstrong. It's a great day to listen to Armstrong Avenue.
It's always a good day to listen to Armstrong. It's a good day just to wake up, Big Mike. How are you today, man?
Oh man, I'm blessed, man. It is a great day. It's been a great week for me. I'm just blessed. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just been a good week.
Look, hey, we are between me and you and anybody listening, we all woke up this morning, so we are all blessed.
That's right.
It's a good day.
That's right.
It beats the alternative 10 times in a row.
Yeah. How's your week been, brother?
It's been great. I've had a good week. The weather in Pensacola has been awesome. So, I'm the crazy neighbor we've talked about that pull the cars about halfway down the driveway, open the garage door, pull all my weights out in the driveway, and the neighbors walk by and stare like, "Oh, that's that crazy wrestler guy." And that's I get FedEx deliveries, UPS deliveries, mailman. They all know me and they all wave, and so I get my workout in the morning and cook in the afternoon and
biscuits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, brother. You already know. I had to plug this past week on Twitter. I had to plug Conrad because Conrad has, Conrad Thompson. Everybody knows Conrad in the wrestling world, and he reached out to me a long time ago and said, "I need the recipe," and so I had to tweet him and send that to him, and I knew you'd get a kick out of it too. So just a picture of some biscuits, and I promise you, they were as good as they looked. One thing I wanted to address up front, Big Mike, is our sponsors. Every week, every morning to wake up and have Bones coffee all over, the smell of it all over the house, and is fantastic. And so, look, if you're looking to get some really, really good coffee and all different kinds of flavors, unbelievable, code Armstrong will get you 15% off. And I know a lot of our friends and people in the business have text me and you too and said, "Hey man, that stuff is really good." They think we're on here just plugging it. They're your sponsors, so you got to kiss up a little bit. Well, that's true too, but in reality, it's really good. And so I want everybody to give a shout out, and they're on Twitter too. So give them a shout out and tell them you heard about them through Armstrong Avenue podcast, and then also don't want to forget Collar and Elbow. Collar and Elbow's been with us. I think they came on right after Bones Coffee. And so they've been with us a good while now. And so to be 22 episodes deep and have Bones Coffee and Collar and Elbow, again, with Collar and Elbow, code Armstrong, 10% off your order. So, high quality T-shirts and some of your favorite logos and sayings on the front and probably on the back too. I don't know. You got to look into that. But like you say every week, still waiting on that Armstrong Avenue podcast T-shirt. Today, I've got my genuine Pensacola Beach T-shirt on, waiting on it to get really warm where I can get. Today, it's a little bit cool. I think this whole week, we're going to be like at 60 and sunny and 60. And I know a lot of places up north go, "Oh, I would give anything for that." and I do. I give everything for it to be here and live right here at Pensacola Beach. So anyway, it's a good week. Had a real good week. I did have somebody reach out to me though and say, "Hey, I know you do the book Scott Armstrong email. You have a runner across the bottom of your screen a lot of times." And they said, "But what if we just want to get a picture, buy a picture or something like that?" And look, I've never really addressed that, but I feel like if you hit me up on Twitter at WWE Armstrong, just hit me up on Twitter and follow me. Ask me about a picture or an Armstrong, photo, family photo, whatever, and we'll do business. We'll do business direct message instead of for the world to see our addresses and phone numbers and all the gaga. So anyway, anybody interested in Armstrong memorabilia, please hit me up at WWE Armstrong, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's speaking of Armstrong pictures and things like that, I got a huge pop this week. I gotta talk about this real quick, and some of my friends did too, and I'm pretty sure you did also. You met Jason at the Rome Superstars Fan Fest. He's Atomic
Yeah.
Drop Comics. He makes wrestling comics and children's books and things like that.
Yes.
He texted me a graphic that he made.
Yes.
It's an Armstrong Avenue graphic, and it's you in a referee shirt walking across the street, and I'm holding a stop sign, stopping traffic for you. But
Yeah,
why
I
am
loved
I
it.
5 inches shorter than you?
I don't know. Yeah, no, I'd pop me too. That dude's talented. I love his. You'd introduced me to him at the Rome, Georgia Fan Fest. I don't know, a month ago, and he gave me a couple of his comic books, and I came home, and they're really good. So anyway, let's plug him one more time. Go ahead, Big Mike. Give him a plug.
He's on Twitter. It's at Atomic Drop Comics, and
Atomic Drop.
Yep,
I love it.
He's got multiple comic books. I know at one point he's got an Andy Kaufman style stuff. He's got one, and I could just go ahead and tell you guys a little. If you didn't hear it in previous episodes, how he got started doing this during COVID. He got laid off from work, and he was spending time at home, and he pulled out his old wrestling action figures and was playing with them because what else is there to do when you're on quarantine? And and he got to thinking, man, I could really design. I could do and he was building his own storylines with them, and so he started writing it out, and he designed a comic book, and now here he is, and I couldn't be happier for the dude because he really loves this business. And he's passionate about it, and he's getting out there promoting it, and that picture, man, it popped me, and I'm gonna show the world that photo.
Yeah, that was funny. I retweeted you. That was funny. Anybody that wants to take a look at that can go back and look at our Twitter and at Big Mike the host and at WWE Armstrong. And
I'm gonna pin it. I'm gonna pin it to the top of my profile. And I'm also considering printing these out, and I will sell them at merch tables with my autograph on it.
Yeah, there you go.
I got my first gimmick, Scott.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's how it starts.
Next thing you know, I'm going to be like Mike Jackson, just hustling the crap out of the gimmick table.
There you go, brother. There you go.
Oh, man. I talked to Mike the other day. He's a funny dude. I love Mike Jackson.
He's a good dude. He's been around a long time, man. He's a Southern legend. He really is.
He's great. He is great. So hey, let's get into this. We have talked numerous times about families in wrestling, but mainly just yours, and as well as like yours and the Anoa family. The Samoans, the Samoan dynasty, and the Fatus, and all of them. We've talked about them at length, but there's so many more families in wrestling that not only have changed the scope of the wrestling business, but also you've worked with closely throughout your career.
That's true. Very true. I don't even know. Look, hey, I'll tell you what, right now, if you are a viewer or / listener of this podcast right now, I challenge you to think of how many wrestling families you can name. And I'll tell you what, while you're doing that, I will talk about NXT this past week for just a couple of minutes. I'll literally talk about their champions for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back to what you think the answer is. So NXT, Braun Breaker. That, of course, is Rick Steiner's son, Scotty Steiner's nephew, and he is the champion at NXT. And then the women's champion, Mandy Rose. And when you think about a brand like NXT, one of the many brands under the giant W, what an awesome set of two to hang your hat on as your champions. Braun Breaker, week after week after week, just gets stronger and stronger as a personality on television and in the ring as a wrestler. And I don't know if he's listening to his dad, if he's listening to Scotty, if he's listening to Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom, whoever he's listening to, is working. He is, in the wrestling world, you ask yourself, is that guy coachable? When you bring in new talent, is he coachable? Can we make him a star? And once you see if he's coachable, okay, now can we give him the responsibility to represent a brand? And hands down, the answer is yes when it comes to that guy. Same thing with Mandy. Mandy had been up on the main roster with Raw and SmackDown, I believe, and now she has transitioned to NXT. And same thing, gorgeous young lady, really, really seasoned now in the ring. She had all that experience, and now it's all come together. And look, when you look at people's careers, you see they getting a little traction, and then you see their promos, and Mandy has she's hit her stride, and she's there. And so when you look at those two talent and those two talent under the NXT banner, and you see those two carrying the company, that's, man. And they're surrounded. Look, they're surrounded by, the thing about NXT is they all want to be there. You know what I mean? They want to be main roster. They want to be Raw. They want to be SmackDown. And they don't realize they've got it so good at NXT. But hey, you always, the grass is always greener on the other side, or at least that's what people think. And I was a referee for Raw, SmackDown, and way back 2006-07 ECW when they tried to bring it back. And I was a producer for Raw and SmackDown, and then a producer at NXT. And so I've done it all with that company. And so to be able to see these two now, I'm not involved with NXT or any, Main Event Wrestling is really the only real organization that I'm involved with. And so I'm able to look at everything through different eyes. And I really want to say congrats to those two champions, Braun Breaker. I look forward to watching the rest of your career. Mandy, congrats. You've hit your stride, girl, and you are doing awesome. And I really look forward to the future. What they do. Braun Breaker is going to be a huge, huge star in our industry. And so I look forward to what he's going to do. Speaking of Braun, I mean Mandy too, but we're talking today about wrestling families. So I know people have had time to think about, man, how many wrestling families could I name? So let's just start with Braun Breaker. Scotty Steiner and Rick Steiner, tag team from the 90s. Didn't they start in the 90s? Or was it 2000? I think it was the 90s.
Oh, they were like, I think they started in the 88, didn't they?
Did they?
I want to say they started in one of the territories up in where they're from up in Michigan, and then I know Rick started first, and then Scott, and then he brought Scott because Scotty was too young, but they were shoot wrestlers in college, and
were they ever?
yeah. So
it's cool to see. Look, it's cool to see that family. It's usually the next generation is better than the first. And so in this case, it remains to be seen if Braun Breaker will be as good as Rick Steiner as far as in-ring. Already, look, times change. They do. And so already Braun is a little more showman than Rick was, but Rick was so powerful in the ring. And so, look, when Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner came to the ring, they had the attention of everybody in the building, including the popcorn vendors. You know what I mean? They came to the ring and commanded a presence. And so Braun is literally in those footsteps right now. And so it's really cool to see him. And that's just the Steiner family. Who you got next? Because I got one for you.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way that Braun Breaker explodes off the ring ropes,
Yeah.
like he's coming down the barrel of a offensive lineman and about to
Yeah.
smash a quarterback. The way he runs, man,
Yeah, and
it is
he played football, so you know he knows about hitting somebody.
it's just you watch him run those ropes, and it's like, how is he that fast and that big? But then you think about the family, like you said, the Steiner family, the things that Scott was able to do
Yes. Yeah.
at his
Athletic.
size
Very
was
athletic. Very
he
athletic.
blessed with genetics.
Yes. That's
But
true, right? It is. It's true. And then it's when you're blessed with genetics, then it becomes what can you contain those and put them where they need to be to make them work for you. And
yeah,
I'd say the answer is yes when it comes to Braun Breaker. I'm a big fan.
yep. So who you got next, bro?
How about the DiBiase family?
Oh yeah, yep.
So look, that is generational too. Iron Mike DiBiase. That Iron Mike was Ted DiBiase's dad, and so then let's see, Iron Mike, and then Ted DiBiase, the son of Iron Mike, and then Teddy Jr., who worked WWE for a good while, and then his younger brother Brett, and Brett wrestled a little bit, refereed a little bit, and so that another family that man, I mean, talent. And I
Yeah.
was saying the second generation is usually better than the first, and you take a good look at Ted DiBiase, and he'll go down arguably as one of the best to ever get in the ring, one of the best heels for sure. And it's like everybody, the older you get, you find your stride or you don't, and he definitely did. But that whole family, and they're good, they're always good to me. Look, people say what they want to say. That family, always good to me. Every time I see $1 Million Man, first thing he says is, man, I miss Brad. I always loved having him in the locker room, and I always appreciate him saying that. And I've been able to see him and Teddy Jr. At a couple of these, like I saw him at WrestleCon, and so always good to catch up. Always good to catch up. Anyway, move from there to how about the Colon family?
Yeah.
So Carlos Colon, man, he was a top draw. Oh my gosh. I mean, top draw for many years. And so and then you think about Primo and Epico. Remember the tag team,
Yep.
the Colognes, Primo and Epico, and then
Carlito.
oh gosh, I'm sorry,
Carlito.
Yes, of course, man. Oh gosh, and that's he's literally the first Cologne that I met. No, I take that back. Eddie was the first one I met because I did me and my dad and my brother did like a pay-per-view or something. It was in Orlando at the Hard Rock Cafe. And it was a lot of years ago. And he was on there. And I had known of the Colon family, of course, my whole life because, what Carlos had done. And I see Eddie and he's out there, which was Primo. Yeah, I think he was Primo. And so they changed their names for the, WWE does that to them. But anyway, he was doing all these flips, his timing, everything in the ring was unbelievable. And he was in his early 20s. And so I sign on with WWE and I meet Carlito and I ask him, I said, dude, why is he not here? And he said, I tell them that all the time. And then after Carlito left, they end up I think they brought them in after that. But anyway, to be able to know that family and know what they've done in this business and to be able to, be a part of their ring work. And then even as I became a producer, I was able to produce some of their matches. And it just, go on the road with them, go on tours overseas with them, and fun guys. And I know, look, I know we're talking about families, but I got to tell you, I'll talk about them a little more when we talk about the next family.
Okay.
The next family, the Rodriguez family. And so that's Alberto Del Rio. And man, I wrote down when we talked about doing this, I wrote down his family heritage, and now what did I do with that?
It's
Um,
it's his. I think his grandfather was Mil Mascaras, or his father was.
well,
Let me
let's. I don't want to say it wrong.
Nope.
Yep, you're right. Mil Mascaras, Dos Caras, and
Mhm.
Alberto Del Rio. And look, Alberto, when he first came to WWE, I remember Chavo Guerrero coming to. I remember asking Chavo, "Hey, do you know this guy?" Because somebody starts coming in the locker room, you ask around about him. You just do. And I remember asking Chavo, "Hey, do you know this guy?" And he said, "Oh, Scott, he's a great guy. He's great in the ring. He's got a good heart." And man, was he not wrong, because I ended up traveling with Del Rio, and I mean, just he was always calling home and talking to his family guy at the time, and just I I had such a great time with that dude, um, and that family. I mean, look, Mil Mascaras probably the most famous uh, wrestler in the history of Mexican wrestling. You know what I mean? If he had had the opportunity to come to the United States, like he was in Mexico, holy mackerel! I mean, he would have been such a mega star here in the United States, like he was in Mexico. And so that family, unbelievable. But to go back to Primo and Epico, and I know I've told the story before, at least I think I have, about being overseas in we were in the UK on a tour, and I set my glasses down. I used to take my glasses off and set them down right under the monitor where if you didn't have a match until later in the show, you always want to watch the matches that are before you, because if they're working an arm during the match, or if they're working a leg, you don't want to go out there and do the exact same moves. I mean, that it means a lot less if people have already watched it. And so you'd watch the monitor to see what kind of match they're having. If they're doing all high flying, you don't want to go out there and do high fly. You know what I mean? So I would take, right before I'd referee a match, I'd take my glasses off. I'd put them right under the TV set that people were watching. And I put them there because I knew if somebody tried to mess with my glasses, somebody would see it and they would end up stooging it off, and I'd find out who did it. And so lo and behold, I come back after now we've been on the road overseas for, 3 or 4 days now. And so the good ribs had not started yet. Everybody was kind of just getting used to being on the road. And I come back and my glasses had wrist tape about that thick on both sides, both lenses. And look, man, people that wear glasses, I mean, it's the last thing right before I go to sleep. I take them off, and as soon as I wake up, I put them on. They are my eyes. I can't function without them. I'll get horrible headaches. I mean, I have to have them. And so people that wear glasses right now, if you're hearing this, I know you can identify. If somebody takes a swipe and hits your glasses, it automatically raises your blood pressure. And so even little kids, you have to say, don't hit my glasses. You know what I mean? And so when I see that somebody's done that, and it's the only pair of glasses I have, and I'm in the United Kingdom and I don't live there, I can't tell you how hot I got. And I turned around and looked, and there's like 10 people sitting in chairs watching the matches. And I said, who did this? Who did it? And nobody would, I mean, total silence from the crew. And I started cutting a promo on I mean, I was like the dude in the mid 40s, gray hair, losing his mind. Hey, this old dude's whacking out. Somebody needs to get him. And then I start really getting mad because nobody would say a word. And I'm squinting my eyes because I'm trying to see who everybody is. I can't see. And in the back of the group was Primo and Epico. And I heard one of them snicker. And when I heard that, I just went, "Where's Del Rio?" And everybody just busted out laughing. And needless to say, I was still pissed. And it took forever to get all that tape off. And then you get down to the last little bit, and it's got the sticky stuff on your lenses. And it was an ordeal. And I thought, okay, look, old school. Nowadays, people just get mad and they want to sue you. And I'm going to, that's not fair. And I'll shake my fist at you. No, man, that's not how you deal with it. Old school, you just don't say anything. And then when you get the opportunity, when they're not paying attention, you get them back. So what I did, I always carried, I know I've told this story, Mike, and you should have stopped me a long time ago, but I'm going to finish it. I always carried super glue in my bag. And because you never know when somebody's really going to get you. And in my career, I don't mess with nobody's gear. Two people in my career, I messed with their gear, but it was only because they messed with me or mine. And so I went to his bag when he went to the ring, and I super glued the lid on his toothpaste. I super glued the lid on his deodorant. I super glued, and Mark Henry started to cut a promo on me in the locker and said, "Hey, Scotty, that ain't you, man. That ain't cool, man. Don't be doing that." And I said, "Okay, Mark." And Mark, he knew that wasn't me. And I explained to him what happened, and he went, "Okay." But anyway, look, to this day, Del Rio has never said a word to me about that. And I love the dude. I do, man. Hey, those were just that's just a good story that came out of a tour that I do not remember anything else about because it was so long ago. But I do have a good story and about a guy that I really care about. He was always good to me, man. Really good. Let's go to the Guerrero family since I mentioned Chavo. Man, there were four brothers, the Guerrero brothers. Oh gosh, Hector, I wrestled a number of times. Chavo Sr. was Chavo's dad. Eddie was the little brother, I believe. I think Eddie was the baby brother, and I think there was one more brother. Oh man, I want to say there were four sons. And
Chavo
Sr.,
Mando, and Eddie, and Hector.
Yeah, and Hector. And so you think of those four guys in Mexico. Imagine that family, the four brothers, having the push in the United States. That I'm sure they got that push in Mexico. Can you imagine the machine getting behind that family in the United States in today's time? Oh my, they'd be megastars. I mean, megastars. And look, Chavo was Chavo Sr.'s son, and he and Eddie were closer to the same age and became a tag team. And look, Eddie, unbelievable singles wrestler. Chavo, great singles wrestler. The best part about those two were they'd just look at the referee and go, "Hey, look, we're going to cheat, and you're going to count to 5. We're always going to break before 5. And if you catch us cheating, please disqualify us." And, as a referee, the referee'd go, "Oh, well, I don't want to disqualify." No. You catch us cheating behind your back. If you turn around and we're cheating, you disqualify us. That's how good they were. They would cheat behind the ref's back and do it so fast and so effortlessly. It was unbelievable. They were so good as a team. But that whole family was great. I mean, there was not a bad hand or worker or ring general in that entire family. They were awesome, man. Really, really good. And I just wish they could have come through in today's, in 2022 and with the TV time that these people get today on WWE or AEW. Just unbelievable, man. Or Impact. Just the push they would get. Oh man, because they were awesome. They were awesome. Who you got, Big Mike?
Man, I wrote down whenever you told me this is what we're gonna do, I just started listing names of wrestling families I come up with off the top of my head, and one of them that I didn't think that many people would talk about would be like the Funks.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, legends. I mean, I watched as a kid. I watched Dory Senior, and then as a kid, Dory Junior, and as when I was 12 years old, I watched my dad wrestle Dory Funk Jr. Dory Funk Jr. was a world champion, and held the world title for oh gosh, I don't even know how many years. And I was 12 and watched my dad in the main event wrestle him sold out. Man, and then a few years later, Terry Funk won the world title, and so. Both those brothers, great in the ring. Terry ended up, his character ended up being the crazy stiff guy, which he was a little of both. And then and Dory was just the consummate man. He hit you with those uppercuts. I was very fortunate to be able to work with both those guys, and watch their dad, and then be able to wrestle both those guys is, there's a few feathers in my hat, and I will always appreciate having that one. They were awesome and good men, and good to me and my brothers. They were older and we were young boys, and they really treated us right in the ring, and helped make us who we became. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good dudes. Hey, it's hard to talk about the Funks and not talk about the Briscoes. And Jerry Briscoe and Jack Briscoe were brothers, and Jack Briscoe was also world champion for a good run, and unbelievable shooter. Both of them unreal shooters. And so to see those guys hook somebody in the ring, and just man, they could go. And so and now Jack has passed away, God rest his soul, and Jerry does the podcast with JBL,
the wrestling god.
Yes. And so it's funny because what's the podcast I just did the other day? God bless it. Busted Open.
Busted Open, yeah.
I did a segment on Busted Open, and so we talked about Continental back in the day, and ended up talking about Brad, and look, I was having fun. It was great being on there with Tommy Dreamer and Dave LaGreca, and when it was over, I'm going back to life, and all of a sudden I get a text message from Jerry Briscoe, and he said, "You took all my time on Busted Open, you jabroni." I couldn't help. I just started laughing. I love that dude, man. He's a great guy. And I said, "Oh, Jerry, I had no clue. Wrestler's honor." Anytime you say that, you just know it's a lie. But I truly didn't. I had no idea that he was on standby to fill in time, or they didn't tell me how much time I had. They just started talking to me, and hey, look, I can talk about Brad all day and Continental. Come on, man. And so I said, "Jerry, I'm sorry, wrestler's honor. I didn't know." And he said, "Payback's a biatch." I just started, because he's in his 70s now, and I love him, man.
That's funny.
I love that. I love him. Hey, I probably told you the story too, but if I got a new listener, I want you to hear this. I just started with WWE, and Jerry, and I mean like first week, and I was staying at the TV hotel, which is WWE puts all their top people in, the doctor and the top office people and all, and so I was brand new to the company, so they were going to take care of me for a few weeks. So they got me in the TV hotel. It was usually the nicest hotel in whatever city it was. I'm Baltimore, whatever. There's always 5-star hotels. And so I remember walking in going, look, me and Mickey J, the late Mickey J, a great referee. I remember walking in and looking around going, man, this is way out of my league. And Bruce Pritchard was in the office at that time. We're talking 2006. Bruce is back, of course, now, but I look over, and sitting on a couch was Bruce Pritchard, and standing in line in front of me to get his room key was Jerry Briscoe. And Bruce is going, come on, Briscoe, let's go. Now, look, I'm brand new to the company. I have no idea that these guys are super good friends. I have no idea. I just hear Bruce. I knew Bruce because I'd known him during my career, him and Dr. Tom are brothers. And anyway, he says, come on, Briscoe. And Briscoe turns around and says, let me get my key. Don't you worry. I'm coming to see you. And Briscoe, now Jerry was probably 60 then. And he gets his room key and he turns around and his bag and starts picking up the pace. And he just like spears Bruce on this sofa in this 5-star hotel. And the sofa flips backwards and they roll off and everybody in there just starts laughing. And look, it's 1 a.m. I mean, we've traveled from the last, for whatever TV show it was to go do the next TV. And I just went, oh my God. Oh, like I was going to go try to help break them up. And Mickey J just put his hand on me and said, hey, it's all good. And I went, is this what happens? And he goes, it is with those two. And I just started laughing. I was going to remind me never to mess with Jerry Briscoe, ever. Good dude. Anyway, that's I didn't want to leave out the Briscoes when we were talking about the Funks, because that's two families that I have major respect for.
For sure. For sure. I actually, I have a couple more that I wrote down too.
Please.
The Rhodes family, Dusty Rhodes,
yes,
Cody, Dustin.
Yeah. Look, Dusty Rhodes, man, I know I've told that story too. I was 19 years old, rode to Birmingham, Alabama with my dad and my brother Brad. And my dad's, look, I'm 19, I'm in college, but I've been a wrestling fan my whole life. And so I'd seen the, Dusty Rhodes promos 1,000 times, and he was top star everywhere he went. And my dad goes, hey, look, Dusty's on the show tonight. And I'd already seen him backstage, and he goes, he's going to stay down here for a few more days. He wants to ride back with us. Are you okay sitting in the back with him? Man, it was like I was 12 or 10, and Santa Claus was going to sit next to. I said, yes, no, Dad, that's fine. Yeah, no, I'm. By the end of that ride, Dusty was telling me, I'm gonna make you come down to. He was booking Tampa at the time, or the Florida area. You come down, I'm gonna make you my junior heavyweight champion, baby. Come on, Scotty, come on down there, dude. I've told Cody and Dustin the story 1,000 times. I was on cloud 9. I never was able to fulfill that fantasy, but to this day, I wish I had, man. That was such a great car ride with somebody that I really looked up to, and to get to know him later in my career and work for him a couple of times in WCW. He would be the booker, and then they release him, and they bring him back. And I was able to hang on there for about 7 years, so I saw a number of bookers come in and out. And so, but then the best part of all was later in life. I think NXT's been around for about 6 years now, if I'm not mistaken. And I started timing that TV show. Every time they did TV, I timed it, and I did that for, out of the whole 6 years, I probably did it for 4 of those years, maybe 3.5 of those years, I timed that show. And so I got to know all the talent. I got to know the backstage. I got to know everybody, but I got to know Dusty away from working for him, working with him. Now I was working with him in a different role. He was a producer and a leader, and he taught the promo classes for NXT, and he was a major player at NXT when it first started. And so I think people know that, but I'm not positive of that. But I got to know him and sit next to him on TV days with nobody in the room, just me and him. And we would sit there for, you put the headset on at noon and you don't take it off till 10 o'clock that night. I mean, you take it off to run, grab something to eat, and come right back. I mean, it's a long day with a headset on. And Dusty would come in there and sit down with me, and we would talk about old times. And man, I told Cody the last time I saw him, I said, man, you don't know how much it means to me in my life to have been able to sit next to him in his later years and my later years, to be able to sit and just talk about old times and old matches and what meant something to him and what was exciting to him back in the day. And, he was just, when you're in the grind, you're in the grind and you're doing everything you can to keep the machine running, especially as a booker. And that was the position he was in. And now it had slowed down and he had gotten older and he was more relaxed and he was in a teaching role and he loved that role. And so just really, really happy that towards the end of his life, I got to be a part of that, the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years of his life. Really, really happy about that. And look, Cody and Dustin, both phenomenal in-ring performers, both of them. I remember Cody speaking at Dusty's Hall of Fame induction, and Cody was just a kid nobody really knew, other than he lived near Brad, and he was a wrestler for his high school wrestling team, and he was a winner. I mean, he was like champion, and I'm talking amateur wrestler, a high school amateur wrestler, and Brad would literally cut out the clips from the Marietta Daily Journal newspaper. Back then we had newspapers, Mike. And so Brad would cut out the newspaper clipping and mail it to me. And so I got to see, we kept up with his career, and that was just us because we knew Dusty. And then to end up, he becomes a wrestler, and he was a great talker, and Dustin too. Look, the family is awesome, cool to me and my family. Don't have a negative word to say about them, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Dustin Rhodes doesn't get the recognition for the role he played in the beginning of the Attitude Era.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
As Goldust.
Yeah, no doubt. It was it was ahead of its time. It really was. The character was just ahead of its time. He played it to the T. I mean, he was awesome.
Yeah.
Who else you got?
Well, I wanted to talk. I've got a bunch of names, but there's 2 names that I wanted to bring up to you. The first one was whenever I talk to whenever I talk to people about you and your family, and we talk about families, because I've talked to a bunch of my friends, they always bring up the comparison between the Armstrongs and the Von Erichs. What the Armstrongs were in Southeastern and Continental and Alabama, Pensacola, Georgia, the Von Erichs were in Mid-South and Texas.
Yeah, that's very true. So look, I don't know if there is a comparison other than the dad was a wrestler and there was a bunch of sons that all became wrestlers. The reality is, back in the early 80s, when it all kind of started for both families, pro wrestling was still seen on, cable television had not exploded yet. And so it was on the cusp of exploding. And so the way television is watched nowadays, look, I'm guilty as anybody. Something's coming on and I think I got something to do, I just hit record, then I can watch it whenever I want to. But back then we did not have that luxury. So if you weren't sitting by the in front of the TV set at say Saturday afternoon at 6 o'clock, if you weren't for the wrestling show, well, you just missed it and you had to hear about it. And there was no Twitter to tell you about it. There was no dirt sheet reporting on it. It was just, I missed the show. And so viewership was different. And it was the early 80s. The core family values were different, simply because you didn't have a number of TV shows to expose the world to what everybody else was doing. So while in Texas, they may not have known what any of the Armstrongs looked like. They probably knew there was a family in the Alabama, Northwest Florida area named Armstrong, and they probably knew of my dad, Bob Armstrong. They probably didn't know our first names. You know what I mean? They really probably did not. Maybe Brad, I don't know. But then it was the same thing with us. we knew of the Von Erichs, but we didn't get their TV show as we were, getting, as cable started exploding, we started getting their TV show. I think it was on ESPN. And that was when the Freebirds were having the run. And look, the Freebirds helped make those guys stars, just like the Fullers helped make us stars. And like I said, it was just the early 80s and mid 80s, and it was family. And now, it's just, we live in a different world, man. We live in the information world and the social media world. And back then we had none of that. And so, look, we still had a telephone on the wall with a cord on it. You know what I mean? You didn't have cell phones. And if you did, it was as big as a football, and you held it way out here. It was crazy. But regrets, I have a few. The old song, if I regret anything, I regret that the two families never had the opportunity to get the exposure that Texas got an unreal exposure to the Von Erichs. Alabama, Northwest Florida, unreal exposure to the Armstrongs. Had cable television been the explosion back then, without a doubt, we would have had the Von Erichs versus the Armstrongs, and we would have had it in every major arena in the world. And everything's about timing. I've always said that in this podcast, that everything in the wrestling business is timing, and it's the truth. And we just came through. Look, I'm not knocking the time we came through. I loved every minute of it. My gosh, man, I had a blast, and it was awesome. But we just didn't, as my career went on, I separated from my family. My dad got older, and we kind of went our own ways. All the brothers, and Brad and Steve both did a lot of Japan, and I went and worked for Smoky Mountain, and then Steve came to Smoky. You know what I mean? You just go your different directions. The Von Erich family had some tragedy, but I'll never forget Kevin at his the Hall of Fame induction when they inducted the Von Erich family, and Kevin said, people always come up and say, that's horrible what happened to family. He said, I just don't see it that way. I got to be a part of something huge, and I had some really awesome family members along the way. And I thought, wow, man, that's how you look at life right there. And so, and that's how I looked at my brothers. And look, getting to, a lot of people go, oh, man, I don't want to work with my brother. I had some of the best times in my life, as far as wrestling goes, with my brothers. And that's the best thing about wrestling too, is with wrestling, you become brothers with a lot of the dudes in the locker room. And look, there's a lot of guys that you go, well, I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with that guy. But there's a lot of guys you'd go, I'd give my life for that guy. And so I appreciate those people. And anybody that truly knows me out there, you know who you are. I would give my life for you, and you know it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, for sure. We can't not sit here and talk about wrestling families and be getting closer to the end of the episode and not mention the family of wrestling, the McMahon family.
Hey, so true. And that's one family I was not thinking of. But you're right. You are so right. You are so right. Look, Vince Sr. started with wrestling. I don't even know what year it was, but it was Vince's dad. And he was the promoter in the Northern Hemisphere, in New York, and that whole area surrounding. And it was a very populated area. And he had wrestling. And then he used he had Bruno Sammartino, who he made his champion for years. And I'm going to tell you something. People up there believed in Bruno. They thought he was the man, that nobody could beat him. And nobody did. And Vince Sr. saw that. And he created the empire. And then, his son bought it from him. And when the Vince McMahon that we all know, bought it from his dad, that's when Vince McMahon came out and said, okay, we're just sports entertainment now. We're not not going to be wrestling. We're we're entertainment like Hollywood. And his dad said, I'd have never sold it to you if I'd known you were going to do this to the company. And the rest is history, because Vince went on to make it a multi-billion-dollar company, and all the brands from it too. And I'll never forget one time. I'll never forget this, because I hadn't been there that long, and it was a TV day, and they were doing, make sure the ring's all good. They hadn't let the audience in yet. And I was standing at the top of the ramp, and I'm just looking around this huge arena, seated 20,000 people. And I'm thinking, wow, man, what did I do right in my life to end up standing right here, man? How did I deserve this? And all of a sudden, Vince walks from behind me and just stands next to me and goes, so you're having a good time? Because I hadn't been there that long. And I said, yes, sir. I said, he said, you finding, you getting your way around, find your way around? Okay. I mean, he was checking on me. And so I said, yes, sir. I said, to be honest with you, I was just standing out here thinking, how did I end up here? And he smiled and said, how did we end up here? And I said, well, touche. And he said, I just remember, working in a studio in front of 60 people, and that was our TV day. I said, I'm standing here right now, and I'm looking at 6 or 8 cameras and cameramen, and this Tron behind me is, I said, the Tron behind me is bigger than the studio we used to have our TV show in. And I said, it's just unreal. And he smiled huge and said, thank you for saying that. I need to hear that. Sometimes I forget where we all started. And he said, because that's exactly how we started with my dad. And he said, well, hey, have fun tonight. And I said, yes, sir. Thank you. I'll never forget that conversation, but that's how he started. That's how I started. And to be able to realize, wow, man, that dude. Then he had his 2 kids, Stephanie and Shane. Shane, one of the craziest dudes. I mean, you start talking about having a wrestling match, first thing he says is, how high can I jump from? And you go, dude, please, man, you got kids now, please. And Stephanie, I've said all along, one of the most brilliant minds in wrestling, but people don't give her the credit she deserves. And I mean, she deserves the credit. I've heard her speak, like during WrestleMania week, they'll have like I don't know, it's called something, but it's like all the top investors in the company, and it's a big banquet type thing, and it's a media production with huge screen and laser pointers, and I mean it's huge, and I'm too stupid for all that stuff, but Stephanie leads it, and you have such a newfound respect for her because she's brilliant, and you go, wow, man, she didn't just sit back on her hands and go, oh yeah, my dad owns WWE. Yeah, my grandfather, owned it. I mean, my mom's Linda McMahon. She didn't do any of that. She actually learned while going through the process of being the child of Linda and Vince McMahon. And you just go, wow, man, that's a brilliant lady. And now, she can stand in public and speak, and people listen. I mean, she's brilliant, and married to Triple H. So there you go. I mean, he's an in-law. So, the family's still at the head of the table. I know Vince isn't anymore. He's retired, but the family's still there. And so, hey, hats off to him, and a huge thank you from me, because you helped me raise 2 kids. And so I appreciate that very much. I appreciate everything you gave me. Being able to let me see the world while you gave it to me. That was awesome.
That's the stories that you have, and being able to tell that story about being there before TV and with Vince McMahon and him going, that's how we started it. That's a good story, man. That's
well, yeah, it's funny too, Mike, because now that you say that, I look back and go, wow, I really did stand next to a multi-billionaire and just chew the fat with him I mean, look, every TV I was on headset and he was right there. And, as a producer, you go to him every day. And I dealt with him a lot. Let me give you the most real life story. I know we're running out of time. Most real life story. We're at the TV hotel. I think it's TV day. And in my mind, I'm going, okay, if I'm going to get a workout, I got to go now. It's early in the morning. Got to get back, get a shower, be at TV by noon. It's about 8:30 in the morning. I said, I can go to the gym. I can get back and eat something. In my mind, I'm just in a tizzy. I put my gym clothes on. I'm going to go to the little gym in the hotel, and I press the button. I get to the floor the gym is on. The gym door opens, and as I step out, Vince is in sweatpants and kind of like the shirt I got on right here, like a shorter sleeved sweatshirt cut off at like the elbows. And he's sweating, but he's sitting in the floor, leaned up against the wall with his arms on his knees and with his workout gloves in his hand. And I literally stopped and said, "Hey, boss, you okay?" And he started laughing his butt off. And he said, No, I'm good. I just can't believe the good workout I just had in a TV hotel gym. He said, "Man, it was great." And I went, "Oh, heck yeah." And he said, "All right, well, have a good one." I walked to the door and my hotel key would not let me into the gym. And there's like two people in there and I'm kind of waving like, "Hey," and they're just ignoring me like I don't exist. And Vince goes, so I go back and I press the button for the elevator and he goes, you done already?" And I said, "My key didn't work." And he goes, "Well, here, let me do it." And he jumped up and opened the hotel door for me, or the gym door for me with his key. And he said, "Don't miss out on a good workout." And I said, "Heck yes, thanks, boss. I appreciate that." And he said, "All right, have a good one." And I walked in there and got to work. I thought, that's a real human being, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you can worship him, you can hate him, you can like him, dislike him. I don't care. But inside that dude is a real human being. He's a dad, he's a husband. Say what you want to about him. I don't care. That was real to me, and I appreciated it very much.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because a lot of times
Yeah.
people see him as this above human figure. I mean, he's Vince McMahon,
Hey,
but
he is.
but he's human.
Yeah, but he's human. Yes, very much so.
So, hey,
Very much so.
we that's a lot of great wrestling families, and I wish we had more time to get into more of them.
Dude, we didn't touch half of them, I don't think.
Maybe we could do another episode on this,
Yeah, let's
and
do
and
it. Let's do
and
it.
keep going. But hey, we're gonna get into the last bit, everybody's favorite segment, the hashtag Ask Scott segment. We had some pretty good questions, man. I'm gonna roll into the first one. RJ at Real Ray in Rock on Twitter. Which, fun fact, he's also the host of Brian Hebner's podcast, Reffing It Up.
Oh, all right.
Shout
Big
out to
shout
them
out.
guys.
Big shout. Yeah, big shout out to Reffing It Up. Brian's a good dude.
Yep. He said, hashtag Ask Scott, do you believe wrestling schools should have an area of classes designated to just referees?
So, for me personally, that's a yes no question, and I know that doesn't feel good right off the bat, but I feel like as referees are at a wrestling school and they're seeing wrestlers get trained, I feel like they should be a part of that, simply to understand the move and where the move, if it's coming out of a corner, if you're just learning to be a referee, where do you stand as a referee? Where do I stand when those dudes are coming out of the corner? If I'm watching somebody get trained to wrestle to come out of that corner, that would help me as a referee go, oh, well, if I stand over here, I won't get hit. If I stand over there, I won't get hit. But if I stand right here, I might get in the way of the guys. I might. I do think at a wrestling school, referees would need an hour by themselves with the trainer just to say, here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Learn about your cadence. Learn about, your cadence on guys outside. How do you, look, nothing worse than a ref, in my opinion, just my opinion, if you're a referee and you're working an independent show and there's 100 people there, well, they're not sitting way up in the sky to look down into the ring like in the major arenas. In the major arenas, if you have as a referee, if you have your arms down and you're counting downward, well, what does that look like to the people sitting in the rafters? And what does it look like to the people in the small building? They can't see, if they're in the fourth row, they can't see over the guy in the third row or the guy in the second row. They're trying to look around him. They can't see the ref if the ref is making any kind of gesture downward. So at NXT and with the NXT UK, I literally tried to teach all those referees, do everything up high. Hey, come on, out of the corner. Let's go with your arm in the air. Hey, I got to count you 1, 2, everything up high. I feel like all referees in our industry need to see that. So I don't know. To me, referees do need some time by themselves with the trainer, but I feel like it benefits them to be a part of the actual training session with the talent that are being trained. I hope that answers the question.
It's a good question. I like the question. I liked how
it is good.
Went in depth into it. So I think we got time for maybe one more question.
Let's do it.
The C-Dub guy on Twitter, 40-ounce C-Dub. He's
I
back
know
with another question. He said,
he always has good ones.
What's a match that at one time had ramblings of happened but never did that you feel was a missed opportunity?
Oh, we just talked about it. The Von Erichs. I mean, look, Kerry Von Erich came into Continental, and I think he worked a couple of shots, like the major, like Dothan in Birmingham and maybe Montgomery and Mobile, but that was it. And so I always felt like, man, and it had been talked about to bring, the family in, but then it never materialized. And so, we were fortunate enough, me and my brother Steve, to wrestle the Funk brothers. And, that, like I said, major feather in my cap. But that was talked about with the Von Erichs. It just never happened. And look, if I look back over, wow, and say, I wish we could have done that. I wish we could have done that. I wish we could have done it on a major scale. Kerry wrestled Ric Flair in Texas Stadium, and man, that would have been. But at the time, like I said, they might not have even known in Texas who we were, and maybe that's why it never happened, because hey, this is just some people coming to wrestle the Armstrongs, or coming to wrestle Von Erich. I don't know, but I wish it would have happened. That's one that was talked about but never materialized, and can't go backwards.
I know Kerry and Brad did a little tag team over in together over in Mid-South.
Yeah.
Which was cool to see.
Yeah.
I think that was before Kerry lost his leg.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was.
But that was another great question by C-Dub. If you guys want to have any questions answered, you can DM me at Big Mike the host with your questions if you don't feel like putting it under the tweets. I know some of my friends personally text me the questions, but I'm not giving you my phone number. Don't do that. I made that mistake one time, and I will never make that mistake again. But you can DM me. You can always tweet at Scott. You can DM Scott. But shoot them over to me. And I'll put them together, put them for the episode. So, hey, great episode, man. I appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thank you, Big Mike. Thank you, Collar and Elbow. Thank you, Bones Coffee. And again, if you're interested in Armstrong memorabilia, hit me up on Twitter at WWE Armstrong, or hit up Big Mike at Big Mike the host, and he will send you my way.
Yep.
And we'll get the ball rolling.
And if you are sitting in your car driving down the road and you are listening to this and you're thinking, man, I would love to watch this podcast and see their reactions and maybe, see some behind the scenes stuff too. Because there's things that make the clips, the biceps, Go over to the Independent Wrestling Network app. Go to your app store. It's an Android, iPhone, whatever. Type in IWN Wrestling. Hit that download button. It's free. And we've got not only the Armstrong Avenue podcast, we have a major selection of some of the best wrestling podcasts. We also have the Lost Territories. Episode 1 is out right now with Chick Donovan, Mike Jackson. Episode 2 drops tomorrow. It's going to be a great, guys, you don't miss out on what this app is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And hey, the Lost Territories is a blast. You see matches that you've never seen, and you get to hear people talk about them that lived it. So that's a cool show on that app.
Yep. So, hey, thank you guys for listening. We enjoyed it. Thank you, Scott. We're going to get out of here.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.